Hello, and welcome to the AstroEnergy Astrology Show podcast with Astrologer Shelley Overton.
Hello, and welcome to the April 17th, 2021 edition of the AstroEnergy Astrology Show podcast. My name is Shelley Overton. I'm an astrologer in Central Florida, and I want to welcome you to the podcast. Every week, boy, let me tell you, we are definitely in some intense energy these days, aren't we? Every week, I touch on the Aries stellium and what's going on with that. And here we are again another week, and I can't even believe there have been, I think, 2 more mass shootings, and it's just, I don't even know what to say. It's really difficult because, my daughter's an Aries, and I know my uncle was an Aries, and I have a lot of Aries people that I know, all very lovely people. Yet, this energy is just bringing out the aggressive side of people, and that's probably largely due towards the connection of Mars, the ruling planet of Aries, in conjunct to Pluto, or 150 degrees away from it, which is a really stressful aspect. I'm looking at the chart right now, April 17th, and let's see, they are within minutes of an exact inconjunct. So Mars is at 26 Gemini, Pluto's at 26 Capricorn, Mars is at 34 minutes of time, and Pluto is at 47 minutes of time. So that means we're coming up on an exact inconjunct. Of course, what difference does it make? They're both so tightly connected at this point. I'm trying to see if I can find it. Yeah, so it happens overnight tonight between Mars and Pluto. It's 12:26 a.m. Eastern and 9:26 p.m. Pacific. And so we are really reaching the peak of this inconjunct energy, which is a very strong friction energy. I think I've discussed inconjuncts in the past, and really it's just this distressing angle that it brings out discontent, it brings out trauma and stress, and the energies do not understand each other. But that, even barring the angle, the energies of the signs that both planets are in are contributing as well to the energy of this. And Mars wanting to take assertive action is in Gemini, which means he's answering to Mercury. Mercury today is at 26 degrees of Aries. So, pardon me, I've got an itch on the nose, of course, as usual. I don't think this would be my podcast if I didn't have an itchy nose. So, Mercury rules Mars, right now Mercury is ruling Mars because he's in Gemini. He answers to Mercury, but Mercury is in Aries. So they are in each other's sign, which is a mutually receptive or mutual receptivity sign or energy between the two. And so there's kind of like, I think of it as somewhat of a vortex of energy, where it's just spinning almost like a tornado. They're exchanging energy so rapidly between each other that, honestly, anytime you've got Mercury probably in Gemini or in an air sign, or just the energy of Mercury in Virgo, or Mercury ruling a Virgo energy, is much more grounded because Virgo is an earth sign, which can bring the energy down and ground it. But Mercury in Aries is going to stoke the flames because Mercury is an air planet. When it's in its Gemini or when it's on its own, it can act in air. And in Aries, it's fire. Mars, of course, is the ruler of Aries, the fire energy in Gemini, which is fanning the flames. And so it can mean fires. It can mean anger stoked. I watched this one YouTube channel where they live off grid up in Vancouver Island, British Columbia, and this man and his fiance built a whole compound on their own off the grid, and they built this wood-fired oven for pizza. And he has this long tube that he blows on the flame, and it's like that. It's this long metal tube that you blow to make the fire go higher. That's really the energy that we have right now. And so we are seeing those fires fan. Something that just kind of came into my head, which might also illustrate this, is interestingly, today is also the funeral for Prince Philip, which is going to be part of this podcast. I had it in line to be talked about, but just now I had a flash on Prince William and Prince Harry. So if you follow the royals, which you may not, but I do, since Harry moved to America, and maybe even a little bit before, he has kind of not been talking to his brother or vice versa. They have been on the outs. And because today is the funeral of Prince Philip, I just have this vision of the Queen pulling them both aside and saying, listen, this is ridiculous. You guys get along. That's all there is to it. And that's kind of the energy that is going on. It's like there is a cooperative energy with sextile, which is a 60-degree angle. And Mercury is 2 degrees off the sun, which is ego. But Mercury and Gemini both rule brothers and, siblings. So in this case, Mars and Gemini is brothers. It's kind of a literal expression of brothers. Mars being male, Gemini rules siblings, so male siblings. And then we have the energy of the inconjunct to Pluto in Capricorn, which is Prince Philip, of course, because he was a Capricorn, and that's where Pluto is right now, the energy. I want to say he was a Capricorn. I'm pretty sure he was a Capricorn, but if not, I think he was a Capricorn rising for sure. Let me just double check that while I'm talking here. Capricorn rising. So he was a Gemini. There you go. He was a Gemini. His Pluto was at 7 degrees Cancer. His Mars was at 24 Gemini. So he was in a Mars return, basically within 2 degrees of a Mars return. But definitely with this energy, of course, I'm looking at this chart within an hour of Moon going into Cancer. So Moon was also right on Mars at the time of the funeral. And so Moon, Mars conjunct late degrees of Gemini. Definitely got chills with this, getting the siblings together. And because Moon is mom, and I absolutely believe that people who've passed on work from the other side to influence what happens here in the material world, I would not be surprised if Princess Diana was on the other side saying, you guys have to come together and get along and find a way to build those inroads. And, I'm sure that the women are coming together to talk to the boys, to the men. And anyway, looking at what's going on right now, I was going to talk about all the stuff going on in the news. I'm sorry, I'm just looking for my news page here, what's going on. And yeah, I have a couple different sites, but just looking over the New York Times right now, it's interesting because we've got the trial of George Floyd associated with the Mars or the Aries energy. Last year, remember, Mars was in Aries. We've got that. Of course, there have been riots. Again, it's also Aries energy. It's taking assertive action. The other thing I wanted to mention was just before last year, just before Mars went into Aries, Mars was in Pisces. And I think that the whole racism coming to a head as far as, Black Lives Matter last year really kind of started with Mars being in Pisces. And because Neptune is in Pisces right now, I've been thinking a lot about this week as Neptune is at 21 degrees. My computer is so slow. I apologize. I'm trying to get to my charts and it's just not doing what I'm asking it to do. But as Mars went through Pisces, it joined up with Neptune in 2020. And that really was like right before June, right before Mars went into Aries. It really awakened the ideal of the male energy, but also, in my opinion, Aries is associated with racism and associated with the authority over your own identity, which is what Aries rules identity. And so, being the first house energy. So, having Mars in Pisces in the first half of last year, but really closer to, I would say it was probably May, that energy for sure influenced the racism storyline. Neptune makes us aware of how we're all connected in the collective. And so having Mars transit Pisces and join up with Neptune last year was an awakening of like, wow, we're all the same. Why are we being treated this way? And it was really, to me, more of the trigger of what we experienced last year with the Black Lives Matter movement. And so as Mars spent the second half of last year in Aries, it really escalated that racism storyline. And so now, of course, as we are looking at what's going on this year, we've got the Aries planets, and they were clustering. Of course, Mars just went through Aries last year, and then the moon was there just a few short days ago, I would say beginning of last week. Let me double check real quick. Monday the 12th. So yeah, today's Saturday, so that was the beginning of last week. So we had the start of the trial then, and we're seeing all this energy, really coming about with the trial, and then of course riots, which, given the energy, is not surprising because we have this dynamic between Mars and Mercury really wanting to expel and express the frustration and the energy of Mars and of racism, but of the people as we felt it last year. Neptune is still at 21. I swear, Neptune seems like he's been there forever. But Neptune at 21, also 21 Pisces, but coming up on the degree that will be in conjunct to where Pluto was, sextile to where Pluto was during last year, January, again, when the stellium in Capricorn happened at 22. We've now got Neptune sextiling that energy from last year. And because Mars last year, when Black Lives Matter kind of came up and really was triggered, that energy is really helping us to change as a collective. Pluto is the people, Neptune also very long time in a sign, rules generations, and Neptune is the ideal. Pluto is the deep underside of things, the psychological depths, the psychologically hidden coming up and working together. Neptune is a healer. I'm convinced of this. Having just had Neptune transit my Chiron, I know that the agape love that Neptune can bring, that unconditional love, is really joining with the Pluto energy right now, again, within 5 degrees of an exact sextile, to really make us aware that we are all the same. And so it's really digging deep in the psyche of the collective, and especially with Pluto. Again, Pluto rules Scorpio, which is the hidden, the dark side of our psyche, in Capricorn, which is the physical structure, but also kind of outworn ways of looking at things. Not only outworn, but like in this case, with how we are dealing in society with the issue of racism, is definitely triggering an old white male energy to have to address and look at what that means. And so as long as Pluto's in Capricorn, I really believe that we are experiencing dictator energy, authoritarianism, hierarchical structures that are going to be brought down, but really looked at as well, and maybe not coming down until they're looked at. This past week or two, Biden has been talking about redoing the infrastructure of the country. Very Pluto in Capricorn. We're looking at how all that infrastructure is starting to break down itself. And so we are now Saturn ruling. So Pluto and Capricorn answers to Saturn and Aquarius. And so that Aquarian energy, Uranian energy, is new ways of looking at things, clearing out the old, and it's going to really bring in some of the refreshed energy. Aquarius can really add to the story, and Aquarius likes things new and fresh and doesn't want to take time to really be back in the old energy. Remember, if you've listened to the podcast for a while, I've been on for like 11 years, you can know that the process of going to the zodiac is about this sign brings something to the table that the sign before didn't have, maybe even sometimes contrary to the energy of the older. So when you start out with Aries, you kind of initiate, but then you build. As you go through the zodiac, the first 6 signs, we're building our identity, our ego, our sense of self, our place in our family, our personal choices and ideas, our personal desires, our personal interests and favoritisms and things like that. The second half of the chart, which is the upper half of the chart, is really focused on the collective, is focused on your place in the world, your place with the people that you will maintain larger interactions with and larger transpersonal relationships within your life versus interpersonal, which is the lower half of the zodiac or lower half in the chart. I don't want it to sound demeaning or diminishing. It is very much important. Both halves of the chart are important, but the bottom half of the chart really focuses more on I, me, mine, my family, my people, my siblings, my choices, my money, how I'm valued in self. And the upper half is me with another person, or we. How do we connect? How are we going to do this life together? And so Pluto and Capricorn, highly collective. All of the planets that are slower moving right now are in the last 3 signs of the zodiac. So Pluto, Saturn, Jupiter, Neptune. Uranus is in Taurus, so he's in the beginning part of the zodiac, and he's reinitiating a look-see, so to speak, at me and my identity, which, like me, not me, but, me, I, you, I. And so Uranus is really triggering interpersonal relationship energy right now. When I say I mean you, I, and me, I, and every individual I. Our money, our love, our relationships, how my place is in the world as far as me and how people relate, how more I relate to them versus they relate to me. So I'm getting to the heart of my money, my love, my desire, my value. And so we see now Sun's at 28 Aries. It is the ego, the sense of self. We've got Mercury 2 degrees off of it. So Mercury is going faster than the sun. He will join up with the sun, I believe, today or tomorrow. Let me just check it real quick here. Mercury sextiles Jupiter at noon, or did today, noon. Mercury sextiles Mars in Gemini today at 3:09, so that just happened. And then Mercury enters Taurus, and then right on his heels, the Sun enters Taurus, so he transits over the Sun, tomorrow, Sunday, at 9:50 p.m. Eastern and 6:50 p.m. Pacific. So he's very, very close to being conjunct the Sun, combust, which, interestingly enough, combust means that Mercury is on the sun, and the sun's light overshines the energy of Mercury. So there's a very strong ego connection. Mercury is communications, and so the communication side of us, our thoughts and how we process thoughts and bring it out to express it, very strongly connected to the Aries energy, but also superseded by the ego. And in Aries rules the ego in the zodiac. So along with the sign of the sun, which is Leo, but in the placement of the houses of the chart, it is the first house of the ego and how other people see you. So it's initiating energy, cardinal energy of Aries. So we are combust Mercury, which means that the energy coming out right now of where we're at mentally and physically, because Aries has to act upon. It is an action sign, an action energy. We are wanting to push it out as really like the birth of something new. And so we are birthing this idea, but we are also in society seeing the energy of this pure Aries, N degrees, cardinal energy forcing the issue. And I would definitely say this relates to guns. It can relate to knives. It's blood. We are seeing the vaccine needles. Needles can definitely be associated with Aries. I'd have to look it up. It's probably also a Virgo energy. And once again, I mean, I try to make these podcasts really informative. So if you're new and you want to find out about what rules what, when I say rules, I mean that there is an energy that oversees it. And there's a book called The Rulership Book. I don't have the author right now, but I'm pretty sure if you go on Amazon, you can find it. If I can, I'll try to remember this week to post it, a link to it up on my angeliczodiac.com site. And then you will have the link to that. You can get it on Amazon through Angelic Zodiac. I'll try and do that. So, yeah, you can see what planets, what signs and houses, what rules each idea. And there was a book written on that. So anyway, having Mercury combust the sun, it means that we are going to see like this kind of explosion of energy, and we may even feel really frustrated, or may feel very egotistical and egoic in our expression of energy right now. Like, you know, Mercury combusts the sun. It means that my ego, my sense of self, is highly attached to how I identify with my thoughts, with my expression of where my mind is right now. And that, you know, being an aggressive sign, an assertive sign, and right now it's quite violent. I'm not going to lie. It's a very violent energy. Mars in Gemini isn't keeping it in, isn't expressing in a physical way. And let me put it another way. It wants to express in a physical way, but because Mercury is the ruling energy to Mars right now in Gemini, it is like it has to be expressed. That's the best way I can put it. It's like whatever the thought is, whatever the frustration in society has to be expressed. And because we have these energies of Mercury ruling Mars, both at 26 degrees and also answering to Pluto at 26 degrees, this is a really potent energy that can have a say around change. And again, we've got the approaching sextile between Pluto and Neptune. So of course, there's also the energy of shift and idealism. Neptune can be very idealistic. Pluto tends to look for the solution. So when you have idealism and solution together, and then you've got Mars kind of not really getting along with what's coming out of the depths. So there's going to be a faction of society saying, this is not something that appeals to me. This is not something that I'm cooperating with Pluto, which is wanting the major change. Man, hair is really annoying right now, sorry. And hair is ruled by Aries too. So I'm sure that that's part of the channeled energy of what I'm trying to tell you. You know, if you're going to, like maybe people who are not quite losing their grip on and being able to cope, the people who are coping may do things like cut their hair or color their hair, doing things that involve the head. If you're not really expressing things and you may be hiding some of what you want to say, you could also end up hurting your head, you know, maybe quickly moving and then you get a gash on your head or a concussion of some sort. And that kind of energy is very strong right now as well. I would also say today, the next couple days, watch how you drive. I mean, I drove back from Orlando today and I was extremely cautious, and I have been very cautious lately because the Gemini energy squares on my Virgo. So I have my hands gripping the steering wheel and very conscientious of doing just what I need to do to get from A to B, and I would recommend that be the case this week. I'm trying to see what else is here. Oh my gosh, if you can see, lots of energy here in the chart. We've got just today alone, the 17th, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 12 aspects popping up. And that honestly doesn't even include Neptune and Pluto sextile. So tons of energy coming in right now. Moon in Cancer, we had the, the new moon in Libra a week ago roughly, and now we have moon in Cancer. So of course we've got the full moon coming up here in about a week. Let me just see. Full moon is, what's it today? 26, so it's about a week and a day away. Full moon in Scorpio at 7 degrees. That ought to be fun, being a lunar return for me. Anyway, so the moon in Cancer means, of course, we're going to be really looking at family life, at nurturing and emotion and sensitivity to money, sensitivity to housing, sensitivity to family, mothers, women, nurturing. Safety and security is an issue, and then having the moon right now just past the inconjunct going to an opposition, because tomorrow into Monday is going to be the opposition of moon to Pluto, and that can mean that we're going to see a shift in a structure. Definitely home life can be affected, career can be affected, structures of government, structures of authority. And also, what are we doing around the house? How does that life work for you? Where do you want to go? What do you want to do with it? All of those issues. I also want to say Saturn and Aquarius and Jupiter and Aquarius are very significant for understanding where your career is. And Jupiter rules housing and real estate, and in Aquarius, in degrees, again, also in conjunct to Pluto. Also, today, he is trining Mars. Whenever I see a trine, especially with Jupiter and Mars, I see difficulty with transitions at times. Trines to me are a sensitive point, a trigger point in the sky. Mars-Jupiter means action, activity, but also transformative activity. In air, it's about transforming your ideology, transforming how you think of things, transforming multiples of things. Aquarius rules multiples. Mars in Gemini is double. And so this is taking action towards moving forward between more than one opportunity, more than one option. And so just know that that's a possibility. Moving is a strong part of this. It's interesting because I'm looking at this aspect. My sister is a Gemini, and Mars in Gemini trining Jupiter. She is in the process of building a house. Just as you know from past podcasts, her husband passed away at the end of last year from COVID. And so now she is moving to a smaller house, and that's being built. So she's in the process of that transformation. She is currently on the road. Also another Gemini thing, another Jupiter, another Sagittarius energy being on the go. And she went up a few states away to visit a friend. So we have change, movement, a lot of energies in this chart. You'll see it, hopefully you'll see it here. I have been asked if I could make it more clear for people. You can go on, if you have software, obviously you can put in the information. It's 3:55 p.m. Eastern Daylight, Saturday, April 17th, 19, oh my God, 2021, 21 years, and I'm still making the mistake of the 1900s in the date. Have mercy. And it's Eastern, so you can put it to Tampa, Florida if you want. That would be, a relatively close place to where I've done this chart if you want to see this chart closer. But I'm also going to post it on Facebook on the Angelic Zodiac page. I blipped there for a second. Angelic, tongue problems. Angelic Zodiac group page on Facebook. And I also wanted to say at this point, since I'm mentioning it, we have a forum set up at angeliczodiac.com. And you can find that. It is, if you want to just get the link, it's shelleyoverton.com/forum. But if you go to Angelic Zodiac, there is a link on the right side. It says forum, and it's brand new. So feel free to post ideas or information or whatever it is you want to share or ask a question about. I really want to start promoting that as a forum for everybody who's watching the show to really connect to other people, maybe share some astrology information, some ideas, and I will check in on it. Absolutely, absolutely. And so, we might get a response from me, but I hope other people will also feel free to answer questions about astrology if they know the answer. Okay, so today Venus is at 3 degrees Taurus. So Venus went into Taurus over the course of the last week. She is 6 degrees away from Uranus. This is a really potent energy from feeling independent. I know my daughter is going through some relationship stuff, and it's not where she wants it to be right now. So that Venus, it's women, it's relationships, desire, money, love. Coming up on Uranus is about showing women their own personal power. And that's kind of what I've been doing to encourage her in this situation, is really focus on where you can put your energy that benefits yourself. What are your desires? How are you seeing things you're interested in? Are you doing things in an autonomous, self-motivated way? Uranus wants us to be independent. And I know it's difficult right now for those of us who are thinking, wow, I'd really like a love interest in my life. And I have Taurus in my house of marriage and romance and partnership. So definitely it's triggering my desire to connect to someone, but it's feminine energy. So yeah, it would be okay if this triggers an awareness of an attraction to women, like just even as a friendship or as a romantic partner, because that's kind of the energy right now. Uranus is alternative lifestyles. Venus coming up on Uranus is like promoting this awareness of the sisterhood going on. And we're going to see that for the next month, especially because we're only a couple days away from Sun in Taurus, and a couple days, tomorrow night. So Sunday, we're going to see Venus in Taurus, Sun in Taurus, Mercury in Taurus, Uranus in Taurus. So the desires, the view of life, the interaction with society is all shifting. And because of that, I had my sister, we were discussing all of the shootings recently this week. And she's like, when is it going to end? And I was like, I was really optimistic that we are in this cycle of aggression right now, but that can be triggered by Aries. Aries planets have been there for over a month. We've been really seeing the transit of the planets in Aries, and then of course the end of last year. So, we had last year 6 months of Mars in Aries, and now we had a good month of Venus, Mercury, Sun, those three in Aries, which brought us back to that time. And in that time, we've seen so many events in America about guns, about even knives, aggression, weapons. So it's a culmination of that energy at the end degrees. And I do see that as kind of that explosion of bright light before the sun goes down, that green flash that they say happens. And so that's always how I describe the end degrees of a sign, of planets going through the end of a sign. So it is that kind of final push into the next sign, that birth of energy from the sign before going into the next one. And the next one is Taurus. So if you think of the birth being Aries, the next sign is you're in the material world, you're learning about the material world, and the focus is the material world. And that also means that we're going from the focus on male energy and assertiveness into more of a receptive feminine energy, and seeing how that all kind of culminates in our lives in a personal way. And I do see it because it's receptive feminine, it brings our mindset out of that male aggression. I have an aunt who was asking me, like, yeah, I've been so mad for like a month. When is it going to end? And I looked at her chart. And, I don't always memorize everyone's chart, even family members. But she has a couple planets in Aries. And so it's really been triggered in her life. And with other family members, I've heard stories of people being really aggressive. And we are going into Taurus. So that means slower. It means really chewing on ideas and thinking about things. And it also can mean that things will manifest that we were wanting to manifest while the planets were in Aries, because Aries energy wants to infuse things with energy, but it is the first sign. So it's the creation energy. And then the Taurus energy is like, wow, I created something. Now what do I do with it? What does it mean? And so we're going to really see the physicality of those ideas that were birthed under Aries energy. And, you know, it is spring. So now we see the result of planting our seeds and the flowers growing, the children being born. Everywhere I look right now on Instagram, it's baby, 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 baby. So we're seeing that. That's happening. Yeah, I can count on one hand and maybe two, in like 6 instances of babies being born or finding out people are going to have babies. So, you know, it was expected. We had a whole year of lockdowns and isolation, and it was going to happen. And here we are in the spring, which is when we're seeing it. Let me see. Is there anything else I want to address there? Coming up this week, let's see what we have. We have Moon in Cancer, like I said, and of course Mercury going into Taurus, Sun into Taurus on Monday. Really seeing the security, the finances, those issues are really strong. Wouldn't surprise me if we hear about some legislation here in America that does relate to money going through or being considered, budgeting, that kind of thing. I know we just had the day that's normally the IRS deadline, but that's been moved to May. So a lot of people probably doing their taxes. I will be one of them. Then we have Moon in Leo, so it's going to be very social, but we have the square to Sun, Mercury, Venus, Uranus, trine to Chiron, and in opposition to Saturn and Aquarius on Tuesday. So it's going to be probably a little bit more stressful because the Moon in Leo wants to put the focus on self and ego energy, but it's also very generous and it is very creative. So if you're being frustrated by not feeling heard or seen, create. That's what this energy is really awesome at. And then, of course, having the planets in Taurus, that's very grounded and slow and honestly kind of humble. Humble energy. Earth energy can be really humble. And Leo energy is not. And that's where there's friction. That's where the squares lie. So it's about being seen and heard at odds with really the kind of collective energy going into a more humble, behind the scenes energy, more grounded, down to earth, very plotting and, you know, really grounded versus the moon, which is wanting to pay attention to the connectivity. There is a common energy, even though it's a square, there's a common energy between Taurus and Leo, and that is Taurus rules love and Leo wants to connect and relate. So relationships are really big at this time. It can be frustrating, but there is a strong energy associated with that in the early part of this week. Wednesday's a little bit calm. I've only got 2 aspects to the moon. One is in opposition to Saturn overnight from Tuesday, and an inconjunct to Neptune in Pisces with the moon in Leo. And so I would say energy around TV, movies, celebrities, definitely Wednesday focuses on celebrity energy because that's the fame energy of Leo and the flamboyant, larger than life energy. Earth Day is the 22nd on Tuesday with the moon entering Virgo. Virgo is going to cooperate more with Venus, Sun, Mercury, Uranus because they are earth signs, but it also means that there can be some financial news coming on Thursday or energy around more restrictive energy, especially Virgo and Aquarius are 2 signs that can kind of clamp down on finances. They're much more, Aquarian energy is entrepreneurship and Virgo energy is service and work and military. So it wouldn't surprise me if there's more coming about Afghanistan coming this Thursday because military is associated with the moon in Virgo, or at least Virgo energy, and service. And then Aquarius is freedom from Saturn and Aquarius. There's going to be kind of this altruistic social aspect to the energy on Thursday and Friday. And then Mars enters Cancer on Friday, and I am a Mars in Cancer, so but mine is in the Sagittarius house, which makes it a lot more freedom loving. But Mars in Cancer is definitely focused more highly on the needs of safety and security. And because Cancer opposes Capricorn, but also balances out Capricorn, it is an energy of a certain amount of restriction and wanting things to be more conservative and even traditional energy going into next weekend. And we're going to do the podcast, so we'll address this next weekend. Also, I wanted to say coming up after that, so the 26th of April on, it's going to be really highly dramatic, I would say, that week, because Pluto is retrograding on Tuesday. We're going to talk more about that next week, but I wanted to address it now. Pluto retrograde in Capricorn is going to be an energy of wistfully looking back at the past and the structure of the past, the authoritarianism of the past, and we'll have that for a couple of years till Pluto gets out of Capricorn. So it's really, I was looking at this, we've been in the shadow of Pluto for a couple, in the course of a year, we're either going direct in the shadow or retrograde, and there's a very small window of probably 1 degree of transition, of transiting, where Pluto is not in the shadow or not going to visit that degree again for 240 some odd years. I would have to look that up, but I can tell you we've been in the shadow of Pluto's retrograde since January 5th. 24 degrees and 19 minutes is where Pluto retrogrades back to, and he doesn't get back to the point he retrogrades from, which is 2648 of Capricorn, until next year. So you can tell, like, he just went direct in December, and then he was in the shadow in January at the beginning. So it's a very intensive energy of Pluto. He takes a very long time to go through a part of the sky. He takes 1 year to go 2 degrees. And so that's always going to be this looking at our own demons energy on some level, or the psychological energy. So let me see if there's anything else. I was just going to say, because I have so much, I did 2 hours of research for this podcast, so there's a lot I want to get in, and I don't want to bore you. I know the majority of you listen to like maybe the first 15 minutes. Some of you go all the way to the end. But Minneapolis, because it's really in the news a lot this week and last week, and the riots, what's going on with the George Floyd trial, and then of course last year with George Floyd. I wanted to look at Minnesota and Minneapolis. Well, Minneapolis probably just for this podcast, but there is a 14-degree Aquarius sun when Minneapolis was founded, and then there was an 8-degree Mars in Pluto in Pisces. So remember, like I said earlier in this, Pisces has an influence on what's going on with this broader storyline. And so, of course, Neptune's in Pisces now. Neptune right now just went into the 11th house of Minneapolis. Minneapolis I have down for February 3rd, 1872 at noon. And that's when it was founded. I don't have a time for when the papers went through and were stamped, but incorporation, noon on February 3rd, 1872. And that gives it a Gemini rising. Of course, right now, Mars is in Gemini in the first house, about to transition into the second house in Minneapolis. And then Mars in the natal chart is at 8 degrees Pisces. Neptune is in Aries for Minneapolis. So it will be very interesting to see what happens when Neptune moves into Aries coming up. Well, it's probably, I would say, 5 to 7 years away. But when Neptune goes into Aries, I definitely see that as a time when racism finally gets addressed, because we as a collective feel the emotionalism of that particular human construct. And so Neptune in Aries, Minneapolis was founded at a time when it's almost their fate to have a say in this. They have Saturn at 15 Capricorn. They have Mercury at 21 Capricorn, which is 1 degree off of last year's stellium in Capricorn. So definitely there's a fate energy in Minnesota, in Minneapolis about this. There's Jupiter at 22 degrees Cancer. So Jupiter 22 Cancer retrograde and Uranus at 28 degrees Cancer. Really interesting chart to look at, and I think I need to really spend more time on the Minneapolis chart. Venus is at 4 degrees Capricorn in this chart in the house of cooperation and the Scorpio house. I'm going to wrap this up because my eyes are starting to really itch and bother me, and I've gone on for quite a while. Anyway, I hope you take a look at the forum. Go check out angeliczodiac.com. That's my website. And also don't forget to check out Facebook. I've got links below on my video. I've got links below on the SoundCloud podcast, which I post both to Facebook. And anyway, if you would like a reading, go to angeliczodiac.com, click on schedule a reading. It's really simple, really easy. There are 3 options there. If there's something you don't see, yes, I do synastry. I do relationship readings. Check it out. And if you want to do a gift card, let me know. I think I had it on my old iteration of my website, but I don't have it on the current one, and I can definitely send you a link to a gift card, and I can set it up for you. Anyway, that's all for this week. Thank you for joining me. I really do appreciate it. And if you have any questions, please feel free to email me. I'm trying to be better about Facebook interactions and questions. I do more of my day-to-day social media on Instagram, which is Angelic Zodiac or Angelic Zodiac 1. But I do check in with Facebook weekly. So if I don't get back to you as quickly on Facebook, that's why. I will get back to you. Anyway, thanks so much again, and we'll see you next week. Bye. Take care. Have a good week. Why are you refusing to let me get rid of you? Trying to get this window off of my desktop. Go away.
You have been listening to the AstroEnergy Astrology Show. If you would like to get a private reading with Shelley, please contact her through angeliczodiac.com or at so@angeliczodiac.com. You can arrange a reading through the Angelic Zodiac page at facebook.com as well. Check out Angelic Zodiac on Instagram for up-to-date information on events, discounts, blogs and planetary transits at Angelic Zodiac 1 on Instagram. If you would like to see Shelley's art, ShelleyOverton.com, or for astrology art, go to astroart.net. Music provided by Kevin MacLeod at incompetech.com. Other music will be credited within the show. Advice given in the program is intended for entertainment purposes only. Join us here next week for more of the AstroEnergy Astrology Show podcast. You can find us on iTunes and Google Play, and where podcasts are accessed.